Hey everyone, welcome back into the DFS Den. It's Dave Eddy here, aka Corporal Eddie on Twitter. Unfortunately, week 7 did not go as planned. It was a pretty rough week. Chalk just continues to hit over and over again, so things didn't go so hot for us last week, but it's DFS, it's very volatile. We just chalk it up and we move on. So on to week 8. Let's go ahead and hop on into quarterbacks. We start with cash. Jalen Hurts is finally back for us after not being available there last week. He's going up against the Steelers. Comes in 8.3K on DraftKings. Guy that I always say is in play, due to his high floor from the impact that he has on the ground. He's not cheap, but he's definitely viable. He is most certainly looking like your pay-up option in cash. And then I tell you, I never thought that we'd talk about this season, but Sam Ehlinger going up against the Commanders, stone minimum 4K on DraftKings. And this is a guy that does have some upside because he gets some points in the running game. So, that makes his floor very viable. Obviously he's very risky, being this is his first NFL start. But, to be fair, you need 12 points out of the guy to pay off. And, at 4K, he really does open up a lot of salary. So as it sits right now, I think Sam Ehlinger is going to be my cash quarterback. And if you would have told me that a week ago, I would have told you that you're crazy. So here we are. MME for quarterbacks. Let's talk about Tua going up against the Lions, 6.2K on DraftKings. Prime matchup here, pretty much about as good as it gets going up against the Lions. And he's got very clear stacking options with Hill and Waddle in the passing game, as, the Dolphins' targets are very condensed. So, he's going to be chalky. The upside, though, probably is too good to pass up. That's really the question that you have to ask yourself, though. Are you willing to play, the chalky quarterback on the slate here? I probably will. And I'll probably have different variations, including, lineups with one of those pass catchers as well as Raheem Mostert as well. But you got to figure out what you want to do. And then we get to the other two guys that I've already talked about. Again, Jalen Hurts against the Steelers at 8.3K. I mean, just like in cash, Hurts in this year's, Eagles offense is always going to be in play. Question is, can the Steelers, push back enough? If the Eagles get out ahead, that's where my concern lies. His price on this slate, where at least right now there's not a whole lot of salary savings, definitely has a big consideration, but definitely can make it work if you want to. And then Sam Ehlinger, again, stone minimum 4K going up against the Commanders, a not so great defense. He's less in play here in MME than he would be in cash. But he's certainly viable. You got a quarterback that's that cheap, that has rushing upside. I mean, going up against a below-average defense, again, a lot of things are in play here for him that make it work. If I play him, which I probably won't in MME, but I certainly don't blame anyone who does, I would have to run him out there naked. I'm not really too interested in stacking him with anybody. So if I were to play him, it would be naked. I guess if you want to stack him with a Pittman or a Pierce or a Campbell, I mean, I guess, but I think that he's less of a, guy that you play because you want to stack the game and more of a guy that you play because you just want to hit value at that position and then use those savings, to pay up for, a really expensive mini stack. So that's my thought process there. Let's go ahead and hop into running backs. For cash, we'll start up with Saquon Barkley going up against the Seahawks. I'm sorry. Going up against the Seahawks. I can't read. 8.1K here on DK. Sheer volume just, makes him in play in cash right now while he's healthy. Seahawks defense has been terrible all year. He's pricey, but can definitely make him work. Volume over matchup always, and this is volume and matchup. So certainly in play. Derrick Henry going up against the Texans comes in 8.4K on DraftKings. This dude absolutely smashes against the Texans. I mean, kind of like everybody else, but especially Derrick Henry. could have a monster game yardage wise and maybe not even necessarily need a touchdown in cash. Granted, you need some receptions out of him for that to happen, but it is possible that a non TD Derrick Henry could still be viable in cash, even at that price. Probably a lock for me, especially if I save money at quarterback, which I am likely to do. Josh Jacobs going up against the Saints, coming in at 7.5K on DraftKings. Volume has been there, and this is a game that I expect to score a lot of points. He's priced up a little bit, at least especially to where, he has been, is he's, been putting up 30-point games for the last 3 weeks. So he's getting up there now, but, he's not a lock for me at this point. But he's certainly viable if you want to play him. You really got to make your decision first at quarterback and then go from there. So Josh Jacobs, very, very, very much in play. Dameon Pierce going up against the Titans, coming in at 6.3K on DraftKings, opposite side of the field of Derrick Henry. His volume has been absolutely elite. And at that 6.3, he's still very affordable. I think mispriced. If you aren't playing Henry, then I think that you have to play Pierce in cash. If you're going to play Henry, then, it kind of lessens the luster a little bit for me on Pierce. I don't hate playing two running backs from the same game in cash, but I also don't prefer it. But in this particular case, I definitely can make a strong case for playing both, but definitely going to be playing one of them for sure. And then we got Kenneth Walker going up against the Giants. Similar price to Pierce. He's coming in at 6.5K on DraftKings, so a couple $100 higher. But I still don't think he's priced appropriately for the workload that he's been getting. He certainly isn't cheap, but, still a reasonable price here, and he's well worth that price. And he could also see his workload increase, if DK Metcalf is out. So, there's definitely some running backs in play here. We don't have a super cheap one at the moment. And we may not end up with a super cheap one. Another reason why I like Ellinger here, but those are the guys I'm looking at right now in cash. When we get to MME, name I already talked about here, Derrick Henry. Again, going up against the Texans, 8.4K here on DraftKings. He has the potential this week to break the slate, in my opinion. 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, well within his range of outcomes here for week 8. He's going to be pretty popular, though. I don't think he's going to be the most popular running back, but, definitely in the top 3, I would say. So, not so popular that I think you would, consider fading him just for leverage against the field. So very much in play. I think it's just a matter of how much do you want to play him. We got Alvin Kamara going up against the Raiders. He's coming in 7.1K. I think it's very reasonable, his price, for a guy that's an elite back, plays all 3 downs. Problem is they just haven't been, getting Kamara in the end zone. So if you think he can score a touchdown or 2, then, he's a great MME play. But without scoring a touchdown, then he just is not going to be worth the cost in MME. Jonathan Taylor going up against the Commanders, coming in at 8K on DraftKings. The Colts are starting Sam Ehlinger, first time starting quarterback. So that means that there's definitely going to be some opportunity for JT to hog the offensive touches there. Right now, he looks to be outside of the top 10 in ownerships for running backs. So he does provide you with a chance to play an elite player at pretty low ownership. Decision point really becomes if you think he's healthy enough to dominate. He's a guy that I was off of last week because guys that just come back their first game, from that high ankle injury typically do not do well. This week, he would be in play now. I do think that if I'm going to pay up there, I probably would rather just go like, Derrick Henry. Granted, there's a $400 difference, but I'm not sure how much I like Jonathan Taylor this week. I'll be monitoring his ownership. I'll probably end up with a couple of shares of him just in case, but definitely somebody to keep in mind. And then DeAndre Swift going up against the Dolphins, coming in at 6.8K. He's been out for a little while, but it seems as though he's healthy. And if he is, that's going to help the Lions push the Dolphins in this game. So DeAndre Swift playing is a huge benefit to, your Dolphins players or your Dolphins stacks as well. he's got the ability in the air as well as the ground, which is what makes him, such a great play, especially considering his ownership isn't coming in very high right now. But again, the question is, and it's a big one, what's his health going to be? And, what kind of limitations are we going to see on his touches? So those are things we have to monitor, and we just need to keep track of here heading into Sunday morning before we decide, what we're going to do with DeAndre Swift. All right, let's hop into wide receivers. Tyreek Hill and Cash going up against the Lions. He's priced up. He's at 8.5K on DraftKings, but rightfully so. In an absolute smash spot, routinely getting double-digit targets. I cannot blame anyone for wanting to play Tyreek Hill. I'm going to do everything I can to slide him in there, which, again, is another reason why I'm leaning Ellinger as my quarterback in Cash, because I want to play Henry. I want to play Hill, and I don't know how I can do that without playing Ellinger. DJ Moore going up against Atlanta, 5.3K on DraftKings. I almost said the F word there, Mr. Bond, but I stick to Atlanta so that I can't be made fun of. DJ Moore's a risky play. The volume has the potential to not be there. But at the same time, he's the only good player that's going to be on the field for the Panthers. So the opportunity theoretically is going to be there at a high level. So he really could be boom or bust. Much more likely to bust than boom. But at 5.3K, you don't need a whole ton from him. 15 points, and you'd be very satisfied. So it's kind of just a matter of how much do you believe in DJ Moore. Chris Olave going up against the Raiders comes in at a nice even 6K. Again, I expect this game to be pretty high scoring, and I think Olave is pretty clearly the alpha wide receiver right now on that team. If Michael Thomas were to be back, let's just say, I don't trust his health, and Olave has shown what he can do. His price doesn't make him prohibitive at all. He's probably a guy I'm just going to lock in for my cash game and figure it out from there. Amon St. Brown going up against the Dolphins. A very nice 6.9K on DraftKings. I do expect him to be healthy. And, I do expect that the Lions will need to pass the ball in this game. If both of those things are true, then he becomes an absolute steal for 6.9K. But you truly do have to believe and feel strongly about his health and about the Lions passing game. So that's what you got to decide on. MME, we're going to talk about a couple of the same names here. Tyreek Hill, again, obvious stacking partner with Tua, and he's going to be the most used stacking partner with the most used quarterback. So, you're not going to be unique here, but it may be too good to pass up even with the chalk. This is just a guy that absolutely could break the slate, but if you play him, especially with Tua, you're going to need to get a little bit unique elsewhere if you want to take down attorney. If you're stacking him in any fashion, be in a mini correlation or just in a game stack. Chris Olave, again, coming in at 6K. I like him for cash because of his floor, but I also like him in MME for his upside. As I said, I like the shootout potential in this game. And I think a mini stack of Olave and Devontae Adams isn't going to be cheap, but it also isn't going to be chalky. And that could be something that could win you a slate. And of course, you're going to have to find a way to make it work, salary-wise, because Devontae Adams isn't cheap. Olave is not expensive, but, he's not cheap. It can be done. You just got to decide that that's, what you want to do. DeAndre Hopkins, nice to talk about him again. He's going up against the Vikings, coming at 7.4K. Absolutely dominated targets in his return last week. This is another game that's expected to score a lot of points, so, no real strong reason to think Hopkins fails. But, going to be pretty popular to pair him, with an expensive Justin Jefferson. But it's going to be hard enough to do so that, it's going to limit the other combinations in your lineup just because, it's going to be hard to make the rest of your lineup work. So, these are reasons, again, why Sam Ellinger becomes viable in MME because, if he just gets you value, you can go ahead and pay for, any mini correlated stack that you want to and still make the rest of your lineup work, without playing him, it becomes hard to do these things with the way that the slate sits right now. But definitely something I want to mention to you. And then Jalen Waddle, again, going up against the Lions, comes in 6.7K. So, almost $2,000 cheaper than Tyreek Hill. I guess with a similar upside, obviously Hill's got a higher upside, but we've seen Jalen Waddle, go absolutely crazy as well. It does get you a little bit different, if you pivot off of Hill to Waddle, but, don't think you're being sneaky in any fashion because he's still going to be extremely popular, and especially as a stacking partner with Tua or, again, a mini correlation. I mean, Hill's going to be more popular, but, well, again, Waddle's not going to make you unique, but it will lessen, the number of combinations that you're going against. So definitely worth taking some shots on here, but don't do it thinking that you're gaining leverage, because you're not really gaining the leverage that you might think. They're both going to be very popular. And then we get over here at tight ends. This is a paydown week for tight ends. Often it is in cash. MME can vary, but I think in both instances, this is going to be a week that we just pay down at tight end. Not a whole lot of opportunities to save cash at the moment, so tight end becomes kind of mandatory to do so. Let's talk about a couple of cash plays here. Foster Moreau going up against the Saints, 3.1K. I think he's probably a better MME play than a cash play, but at the 3.1 mark, he still qualifies as a tight end punt. But, there are going to be cheaper options as well, so I just want to make mention of him here. Not so sure I'm going to be playing him, though. If I was going to play the 3.1K Foster Moreau, I'd probably just spend another $100 for Juwan Johnson on the other side of the field there. Very similar to Moreau. I think he's probably a better MME play than a cash play, but, he's cheap enough that, you can make it work. Now, if you really want to go down and punt and tight end, then I think that the play is going to be Tanner Hudson going against the Seahawks. Stone minimum, 2.5K on DK. Going up against a team that gets killed by the tight end, should see the majority of the passing down work. I mean, the floor is literally going to be 0. But at 2.5K, needing to, punt some salary, even knowing that he could get me a 0, I mean, I'm okay with that in cash at tight end. Obviously far from ideal, but if I can get a stone minimum price tight end, I'm willing to take the chance on that 0. Then we get the MME, guy that I'm not playing, but I feel like I should be talking about anyways. Kyle Pitts going up against the Panthers. He's down to 4K now. And I'll just say this is why I'm off on him. I mean, if he hasn't done it yet this year, and most specifically, he did not do it last week in, a very negative game script, then I just am not sure how you can have any confidence, just to go back to him again. I haven't really played him at all this year. I sure don't plan on starting it now. I mean, his price obviously is incredible. He's going to, look good in the optimizers because he's still going to get projected up. I mean, he could have a 40-point game. Like, how many tight ends can you say that about? But regardless of his skill and all of that, it just doesn't seem as though the Atlanta, team is just capable of carrying the type of volume and the type of opportunity that we would need from him in the passing game to make him viable. So basically, with Kyle Pitts, and until I've seen it a couple of times, I personally am out. I mean, definitely in cash. I can see him being a popular cash play again this week. I guess I could see taking a shot or two in MME if you really wanted to. I'm just not going to be that guy. Tyler Higbee up against the 49ers comes in 4.2K. I mean, yeah, he's certainly a viable play if you don't want to punt tight end. I mean, 4.2 is not a lot, but it's more than I intend on paying this week. He has seen tremendous, value at the position. So, again, I'm not playing him, but I can understand, if you wanted to. I just can't pay up at tight end this week. Even if I were paying down at quarterback. Irv Smith going up against the Cardinals, 3.5K on DraftKings. This is a little bit more my speed here. Now it is more than I want to spend on tight end, but given the scoring environment here of this game, and the fact that he does provide some nice leverage off of some chalkier pieces, this is a guy that I am going to have some shares in of, but probably more so, a pay down guy like a Tanner Hudson is going to be, where I'm finding myself. And then last guy I want to talk about here, Dallas Goedert going up against the Steelers. Comes in at even 5K. If you want to pay up a tight end this week, it certainly would make you unique, I think. So this is your pay up option for week 8 if you're so inclined to do so. I mean, he's a great play and, very easily could pay off his salary. It just means you're going to have to figure out some things elsewhere. And I think that that's going to be relatively hard. So not where I'm going, but I get it if you do. And then we're going to defense and special teams. Boy, oh boy, I always make fun of how much we like this. But, let's talk cash, guys. We got Cowboys going up against the Bears. They're coming in at 4K on DraftKings. I think it's easier to pay up for D this week than normal, just because in cash, I think you can find some cheaper options that you can feel comfortable with. I still think it's going to be hard to pay up in cash this week. I think it's always hard to pay up for defense in cash, but it's viable this week if you wanted to pay up. Just keep in mind it's such a volatile position that it's really not ever advisable in my opinion. So the people or the team that most people are going to be playing, I think, are the Commanders. Going up against the Colts, going up against Sam Ehlinger there in his first start. They're at 2.6K, much more, our speed for, a cash defense in that price range. I think they're going to be the chalk cash play this week. Again, their salary and the fact of, the quarterback that they're going up against. I think that's going to make them very likely my cash play. Unless a lot of value were to happen to open up. If I can afford to get up to the Cowboys, I would, but I'm not going to prioritize a defense over an upgrade somewhere else. So if you play the Cowboys, I get it, but I just wonder what you're probably sacrificing to do so. Your choice obviously to make. And then as far as MME, same thing I said last week. My advice for defense is to simply correlate it off of one of your running backs, or at least just use someone that's less than 5% owned. It's such a volatile position, and there's no correlation to the price. Really, you could play any defense that fits, how much money you have left to save. And, who knows what defense is going to be good and what defense isn't going to be good. You'd like to think that it's, got a lot to do with matchup or salary, but unfortunately it really just doesn't. So for me, ideally, you play a defense that pairs with your running back, is cheap. So when I say is cheap, I'm thinking under 3K on DraftKings and is under 5% owned. So defense that pairs your running back, under 3,000, under 5% owned. So what I'm looking at right now, teams that are in my, defenses that are in my player pool right now that fit all that criteria are the Saints, the Giants, and the Texans. So that's where I'd be looking at for an MME defense this week. But feel free to spread it around and just kind of, whatever fits is whatever works. So I appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't done so yet, make sure that you go ahead and pop over here and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you get an alert anytime that one of my videos or any Fantasy Six Pack video comes out. You can get right on it, get the information why it's as fresh as possible, and then drop a like on here. Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll see you next week.